Alright guys, we're on page 241 of your student journal, last section of chapter 8, describing pairs of angles. I would say the best thing about this chapter, or this section, is it's honestly mostly just vocab and you trying to understand concepts. So let's get to it. So I made this diagram here specifically for adjacent angles so that you wouldn't have to sit there and watch me like draw this little thing out. So I guess before we do that, we could just go over the other ones as well. Complementary angles are angles that add to 90 degrees. Another way to think about that is angles that combine to form a right angle. Supplementary angles are angles that add to 180 degrees, or angles that add or combine to form a straight angle. Linear pair is, a pair means two, right? So two angles that combined form a line. So all linear pairs are supplementary because they always add to a straight angle. Vertical angles are angles that are across and congruent, across from and congruent to each other. Adjacent angles, so I wanted to give you this example first before I give you a definition. So angles AEB and BEC, so AEB and BEC, or BEC and CED, but not AEB and CED. So adjacent angles are just neighboring, or adjacent you might think of as just next to, angles that are next to each other. They share a side and a vertex. So if I'll do this in a different color. So why do AEB and BEC work? They share this side and they share this vertex, E. So you have AEB and BEC are adjacent angles. They are next to each other. BEC and CED share this side together. So BEC and CED. But AEB and CED do not share any sides. This BE is not the same thing as CE. They're not the same side, but they do share a vertex, but that doesn't matter. Adjacent angles have to be next to each other. They share a side and a vertex. So we have these two are neighboring angles, or sorry, adjacent angles, and then these two are adjacent angles because they are next to each other, but this one and this one are not. Okay? If you have any questions, now's a really good time to ask. Make sure you understand these before we move on. Core concepts, complementary and supplementary. Angles 1 and 2, what do they form? They form a right angle. A and B, what do they add up to? They add up to 90 degrees, which is a right angle. So that makes complementary two positive angles whose measures have a sum of 90. Each angle is the complement of the other. So 1 is complementary to 2, or you could say 1 is the complement of 2 and 2 is complement of 1. Same for A and B. Supplementary, two positive angles whose measures have a sum of 180. So how do you know 3 and 4 are 180? Well, what do they form? They form a line. A line is a straight angle is 180. So 3 and 4 are supplementary because they add up to 180. C and D are supplementary because they add up to 180. Each angle is a supplement. So the angles are supplementary, but you could say, oh, C is a supplement of D. And it just tells you the same thing. Adjacent, so you see they have to have a common side and a common vertex. Non-adjacent, they're not next to each other because they're not even touching anywhere. Linear pairs, when their non-common sides are opposite rays. That's just like a technical way, really technical way of saying it, but it's like, I mean, look, it makes a line. You just have to make a line together. Lastly, vertical angles are when their sides form two pairs of opposite rays. So 4 and 5 are vertical, and 3 and 6. I'm making these symbols because those are congruency symbols for angles. So just like segments have like slashes to tell you that they're congruent, angles have these symbols. So if they have the same number of lines or markings, then they are congruent. So 4 and 5 are congruent to each other, and 3 and 6 are also congruent to each other. Okay, extra practice. Name the pairs of adjacent, so neighboring or next to, or touching, complementary adds up to 90. So one of these examples, 75 plus 15. 75 plus 15. So pot, P-O-T, and toss or sot. 75 plus 15 is 90. That makes them complementary. Adjacent means they have to be touching. 75. This 75 is not touching anything that's 15, so it's not, not adjacent. And then 15 and 105 don't add up to 90, so that's also useless. Name the pairs of non-adjacent supplementary. So it has to add up to 180. So you could say 105 and 75 add up to 180, but they are adjacent, so I don't want to count that. It has to be non-adjacent. So LJM, angle LJM, and 105 plus 75. So TOP, top, or LJM, and ROQ, rock. Oops, rock. Okay? Add up to 180. Non-adjacent means they're not touching, or not neighboring, not next to each other. Find the angle measure. A is a complement of B, so A plus B equals 90. A is equal to 36 plus B equal to 90. Subtract 36 from both sides. B, measure of angle B is 90 minus 36. 60 minus 6 is 54 degrees. So this is the same thing, except supplement means 180. And it says D is 117, so go ahead, C plus 117 equals 180, and you subtract. So this is 117. All right. Find the measure of each angle. So you have to think, we don't know if they're a bisector. If this is bisected, we don't know if they're equal to each other because they don't have the slashes. But we do have this right angle symbol. That means they add up to 90. So 10x plus 22 plus 7x plus 34 equals 90. So you have 17x plus 56 equals 90. You find x, and after you find x, to find the measure of each angle, you have to substitute x back in here and here. This is a line, which means that they add up to 180. -5 plus 5 is 0, so they just cancel out. Find x, and again, substitute it back in here and there. In exercises 7 and 9, use the figure. Ooh, identify the linear pairs that include angle 1. So what does 1 form a line with? There's two lines that angle 1 makes. One is here, that should be obvious, and the other one is here. So linear pairs, 1 and 2, 1 and 4. Vertical angles, there are so many in here, so I'm just going to start marking them with this green. 1 and 3, oops, 1 and 3 are vertical. 4 and 2 are vertical. 10 and 7 are vertical. 9 and 6 are vertical. 5 and 8 are vertical. Those are all vertical angles. Are 6 and 7 a linear pair? Explain. Let's see here. Angle 6 is right here, and angle 7 is right here. So from the beginning of angle 6 to the end of angle 7, does this form one straight line? No. The answer is no. Nope, because if you connect them or combine them, they do not form a straight line. Alright guys, that's it for Chapter 8. Again, it's just basics of geometry, so a lot of these are concepts mostly, these idea of lines and segments and adding things together and combining them, whatever. So good luck on your test. If you have any questions, make sure you ask your teacher or let me know.